cannot lower the price to the point that the local players are putting the price on it. It's going to jeopardize future edition. How can we bridge that gap between what the local players are doing and where we are and still have the returns for the record? And I remember that year, because of all the major events that were going to take place in Brazil, was the FIFA World Cup in 2014 and then the Olympic Games in 2016. So I remember going there and pitching the idea to the CEO of the company, the CFO, and showing, here's the package.
Welcome to the Mid-Game Mindset. Join us as we dive into the pivotal moments that shape today's top sales and marketing leaders, RevOps innovators, and entrepreneurs. This is where grit meets growth and the game changes for good. If you find value in this conversation, be sure to share it with another growth leader who would enjoy it. And now, let's get to the show. Welcome to the Mid-Game Mindset. I'm your host, Rich Bishop, and there are a lot of podcasts out there that talk about tactics around sales and marketing. And yes, we get into that, but it's very important for us to really dig into the mindset of those sales leaders and entrepreneurs, and even maybe dig into some of the personal experiences that color some of their decisions when they do make their decisions in going to market with their companies. And today's guest is no exception to that. We have Thiago Moraes here with us. And Thiago is an electrical engineer by trade, but he's been in sales and marketing leadership roles for 30 years. He was a project director for the FIFA World Cup in 2014 in Brazil, where he was responsible for providing temporary power resources and electricity to 12 stadiums and the International Broadcasting Center. We're going to dive a little bit more into that here in the conversation. And most recently, Thiago has been serving as the Chief Commercial Officer for Shermco, where he recently helped Griffin to sell the company to Blackstone for $1.6 billion, a very successful exit. He's got a great resume. Thiago, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Rich. It's a pleasure.
And Thiago, I hit on a couple of the highlights, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Sure. Yeah. So as you said, Rich, an electrical engineer by trade. Very early in my career, I migrated to sales and marketing to be a product specialist, working for Eaton Electrical at that time. And then I never left marketing sales. I think I found myself in the sales and marketing. So great to have the background as an electrical engineer, but that was about a year of my career that I really used engineering for my career. So migrate to sales, never left.
That's great. And obviously a strong background, sounds like some really neat experiences, some life-changing experiences along the way, which I want to make sure we dig into here. Now, where we like to start is with what we call the mid-game moment. And we've found that growth leaders of all shapes and sizes all have a common, at least one or two experiences in their life where they've had to draw on experiences from their personal life, from books that they've read, mentors that they've worked with, to help change their mindset to overcome the challenges that they're facing in order to reach new heights, and many times end up getting to new levels of success in their career or with their companies. And so as I explain that, I'd love to learn from you, what comes to mind?
So Rich, as you said, there are a couple of those moments in 30 years, you're always gonna have a couple of those moments. But to me, the first memory that comes to mind was the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil. That's where I'm from. I was a project director for Agreco, managing the bid package for that event. And if you were awarded, I would do the installation and operations for that event in Brazil. In the previous year, Agreco lost the Confederations Cup in 2013. We lost on price. It was a public bid, and that event is generally a test event for FIFA. FIFA used that to pass the host cities, the host country, to see how the infrastructure is going to support the next year, a major event, which is the FIFA World Cup. We lost it, so very important for Agreco to secure the FIFA World Cup in 2014. And I knew I had to think out of the box to be able to capture the event, being able to win the bid without really jeopardizing Agreco rates and value, because Agreco is a multinational company and performs major events worldwide. So I knew if we reduce the price too much, that would impact future editions of the event and the value of the company. So we had to capture, be able to beat the local players that were lowballing the bids, at the same time being able to protect Agreco for future events. And then I had a mentor of me that was my first sales leader, Jose Elias. He had this motto that from Mark Twain, he would say that they didn't know was impossible, so they did it. Never gave up on anything, even situations that were really hard to overcome. And he always inspired me when I watch him reverting situations that seemed to be impossible to do. And that was the case for the FIFA World Cup. We came up with a solution of keeping the bid and the value of Agreco at the same level that we have always done in previous editions. And we end up investing on a sponsorship package with FIFA, becoming the official supplier for FIFA for the event. FIFA then awards Agreco directly without having to perform the public bid through the local organizing committee. So with the difference between the sponsorship package and our bid, we were competitive for FIFA as well. And then we were able to host many of our most important customers worldwide to go to Brazil, watch the game, see what we did in our installations. So it was a win-win, fantastic opportunity for us to have a hospitality package as well for our most important customers worldwide. So it worked extremely well. It really changed my career at that point.
So you lost the Confederations Cup on price. It was a bid situation. You obviously then learned from that didn't work well for you. And I love this story that you took this into not only avoiding the low bid, which means you probably maintained your margins to a reasonable degree here, but you also were able to then, because of the sponsorship, turn it around and use it as a display or an example for some of your customers around the world as to what it is that you guys are capable of. So you turned it into a sales tool along the way. So what could have been a low bid, low margin type of business that, yes, it's a feather in the cap, and I'm sure it's good business that you can promote, you actually used it into, or turned it into, a promotional opportunity in the moment. Where did that thought pattern, or where did that idea come from?
Yeah, I'll start with what I felt, Rich, when we lost the Confederations Cup. Just to give you an example there, FIFA and Agreco had a great relationship and working together for many years. So Agreco has done that event several times. So first time going to Latin America, first time going to Brazil. As you know, soccer in Brazil is almost like a region. And now I'm project director, and we lost a bid. So it was a devastating moment for me. And it's because of the recognition of the event. It's a type of event that even impacts the company stock market if you lose, right? So really big deal. So we was doing a brainstorm with my team. Had a team of multinationals that used to perform the event in other locations. Engineers from South Africa, Europe, all over the place. That was the group that was the initial group that was putting the package together. Gabriele was the leader for the operations, an Italian engineer, very bright. And we were discussing a brainstorm, like, what are we going to do? We cannot lower the price to the point that the local players are putting the price on it. It's going to jeopardize future editions. So we knew that FIFA, and we have done that before as part of the sponsorship package, not at the degree that we did in Brazil. But then that idea came up. How can we bridge that gap between what the local players are doing and where we are, and still have the returns for Agreco? And then we came up with the idea on that brainstorm. How about if we really expand the sponsorship package, which was a big investment to do to bridge the gap. And I remember that year, because of all the major events that were going to take place in Brazil, was the FIFA World Cup in 2014, and then the Olympic Games in 2016. Agreco board it was having a meeting in Brazil. So I remember going there and pitching the idea to the CEO of the company, the CFO, and showing, here's the package, here's what the sponsorship package is gonna be, here's how we're gonna build the bridge, here are the returns. And I was presenting to the board, and the CEO was very excited about the idea. He loved the idea. I remember the CFO being like, still not seeing the play here. I think you're just playing with the numbers. The CEO was extremely excited about the idea, and we implemented, and it was a game change. It was really changed the game for us, and we were very successful in that event. We were so close, Rich, to on a timing perspective, to have the bid delivered, that FIFA didn't have the time to inform the local organizing committee that we closed the deal directly with them. Our CEO went there directly to FIFA headquarters to close that package. They didn't have the time to inform the local organizing committee. And I remember my competitors going to the bid, and we were not there. And they were trying to figure out why Agreco didn't show up to the bid. And getting text messages like, why you guys not bidding? And we actually already got the award and the package. So it was a great moment for all of us.
That must have felt really good, especially after the Confederations Cup, knowing that you had lost. And I'm sure those same people were there saying, hey, wait a second, where did these guys go? What happened?
100%. It was fantastic. They were very sour when they learned that we already got the package. It was that same weekend that we got the package, and the bid was on a Monday. So
that's fantastic. Such a smart, strategic end around move to make there in order to solidify that. I could definitely see how that could be a career defining move for you, right? Along the way, and some of the changes that kind of have happened from there. We'll obviously get into that too. I want to go back a little bit to maybe before the FIFA experience and find out from you, is there a personal experience maybe from the younger years that shaped your leadership style and your approach?
Yes. I think I have, as anyone, probably a couple of those, Rich, but I have one that really, I think it marked me as a young individual, and marked my the way that I lead and my leadership. When I was in my teens, my dad had an accounting firm. He owned an accounting firm, and he had this side investment that he would build low-end houses for people trying to get their first homes. So he would invest in building those houses. And in 1990, the Brazilian government launched an economic reform package. It's known as the Collor Plan. It was the name of the president at that time in Brazil. And one of the most polemic measures of that economic reform was freezing the 80% of the assets, private assets, for 18 months. The assets would, frozen for 18 months, like talking about savings accounts, investments, all private financial assets. Um, it's unthinkable. And unfortunately for us as a family, a lot of the down payments from the future owners for the house were actually my dad's saving account. So when that happened, he didn't have the cash to honor his commitment to these people to start, building the houses. So before that economic reform, we always had a very stable financial condition. We were at a couple of houses, cars, and we are in a very good financial condition. After that economic reform, we had to sell pretty much everything that we had. So my dad would have the money to, build the house. And it was in my teens. I believe I was either 14 or 15. And I remember asking him why we need to sell our houses, our cars, and burn our savings. None of this is our fault. And I remember he looked at me and said, hey, because all these people, they trust me with their savings and their dreams, and there is no money in the world that would make me whole if I let them down.
Mm.
And he said, we need to do what is right, not what is easy for us. Legally speaking, he probably would be able to, get away. It was an economic reform, and he didn't. He selected what was right rather than what was easy. Impact our lives tremendously, financially speaking. It was a really big step down. But I learned two lessons from that day, from that year, from my dad. One is always do what is right for your employees, for the customers, for the company overall, rather than what is easier for you. Make sure you always doing what is right, not what is easy. No shortcuts. And the second, make sure that every situation you need to manage, any decision you need to make, even a meeting that you need to attend, make sure you are representing the people that trust their interests on you, mainly when they are not in the room to do that for themselves. Represent them. Check your ego at the door, and you there representing a group of people, your direct reports or people that trust you to be their leader. And it's not about you, it's about them. And that I take that as a for every single situation that I need to manage. I try to live to those standards that I learned from my dad.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, first of all, I've traveled outside the US quite a bit, but just being a US citizen and hearing about assets being frozen, that's something that generally never crosses our mind, right? We've got the economy and the government and the stability there that luckily, knock on wood, has never had to be the case and has never come into play. Now, with that said, you were 13, 14 years old while this happens. Obviously, that's in general, that's a very selfish time in a kid's life as they're starting to figure out who they are, right? I've got two teenagers. I know, in experiencing that now, how that can be. That had to have made one hell of an impression on you at that time for your dad to have that kind of principled view of business and say, you know what? No, I've got an obligation here to the people that trusted me, and I'm not going to break that trust. And therefore, our family needs to feel that or is going to feel that because we can't let those other people down. How did that feel in the moment when you were going through that?
It was really hard on us, Rich, because we were used to have a really good financial position. We were living in Brazil. I was living in São Paulo at that time, but we lived in Santos, that is city in the coast. So we had this very nice apartment in the Ocean Drive. I remember my dad used to have the latest models of the cars. I remember the neighbors going to to the building garage to see the new model that we would have. It was always a very pleasant, a very well balanced financial situation. And we had to leave that apartment that I grew up. I had all my friends there. You know, we had to go several blocks away from the Ocean Drive and to more affordable location and leave an apartment that was ours to live on a rental. It was very impactful. It was very tough on me and also on my mom. At that time, my mom didn't work, so she had to start, work in selling clothes in Brazil. So it really changed dramatically the situation that we had. So it was really impactful. Very at that time, Rich. I just felt the negative side of all that. It took me several years later when I grew up to look back and understand what he did, and actually to feel really proud of what he did. And up to these days, it's an emotion thing for me, and I feel absolutely proud on the way that he handled that. And it's a great memory now. At that time, it was a really tough one, very sad. And remember crying because we're not living at the same place, crying because I was no longer close to my friends. Then I look back and I'm so proud of what I did.
Are your go-to-market teams built for scale, or are they stuck in chaos? At Mid-Game Consulting, we turn high-growth challenges into operational wins. From sales strategy to CRM to process optimization, we help you get it right so that your organization can grow as your top line grows. Let's transform today's change into tomorrow's success. Visit midgameconsulting.com. That's midgameconsulting.com. That is such an upheaval of a family and their life, but I'm amazed and glad that your dad did that, right? Like there aren't enough business people out there that have that kind of moral compass that would make that kind of decision in that situation. And there are too many people that are selfish and would do the right thing for themselves and screw the people that have trusted them. And it really says a lot about your father and the man that he is, that really kept those people at heart when he was making those decisions. So I'd like to ask you, how did things change, or did they end up turning for the positive when the assets were unfrozen? Was your dad able to turn those things around and kind of get back to more of the way that things were?
No, we never recovered a rich to the same level that we had. We never recovered. The package, it's crazy to think about it. Like, you're right. People that are not from Brazil, and every time I tell this story, they're like, "That's impossible. The government wouldn't do that." And you can actually Google it, and it's see it. And if you Google it, a color plan is going to explain everything that happened. They had an interest rate that was kind of recovering inflation at that time, that for the frozen assets, but we were not ever able to recover, because what happened was all the assets that we had to sell, we were spending on rental and in the houses and not having the cash in hands. It really burned our savings and our assets. So we never recovered to the same level that we had before after that. So we not saying we had a very tough situation. We always had a house, a place, education, food, everything, Rich. But it was a sacrifice to be at the college that I did, which was a private college. I had to get a student loan to do it that I paid after I graduated, so I wouldn't be able to. My parents wouldn't be able to pay, so I got a loan. And then after 1 year that you graduate, you start paying the loan. So I did. The school that I went to, the high school that I went to, it was a very good school in São Paulo, but it was really a sacrifice for my dad and my mom, selling clothes to try to keep up with the school. So it's a pretty big change. on our style and our lives, and we never went back to the same level that we had. But still, I look back and so glad and so pleased that that was the decision that he made. And I remember telling my mom that that moment it changed the way that I operate, and I tell her that my hard working probably comes from that, and uh, putting out in and work hard and being resilient to situations. And my mom teases me, says she was you were always like that. You didn't have that situation to do it. And I was like, Mom, I'm trying to find a positive moment from outside. Don't take away from me, I'm still gonna say that was that.
That's great. That's great. So I'm sure that shaped your career and your approach to how you manage and how you lead people, really kind of keeping other people's interests and the people that you lead close to heart with how you do it. Are there some challenges, or is there something that challenged your thinking along the way, or changed some of your thinking from maybe not necessarily on that front, but maybe in other areas of your mindset that whether it be a person, whether it be a situation that helped kind of shift your mindset in the way that you approach businesses or challenges?
Yes, which I have a mentor that became a friend. Gordon Broussard is his name. We work together at Agreco. He's the person responsible for me to be here in US and live here in US. He was the first one to see potential on me and promote my skills here in the North America division of Agreco, and he helped me to make that transfer from Latin America to US. And he always used to tell me, don't change who you are and your beliefs to any role or any organization. I believe that in the beginning, coming from Brazil to US to get a sales leadership position here in US. I remember the company was doing a restructure at that time. And we were in this hotel in Houston, and all these sales leaders, they were being assigned a new roles. It was a completely reorganization of the North America business. It's about $500 million at that time, and whole restructure of the sales team and the leadership. And then you have this guy coming from Brazil getting a leadership position, and they were reducing the number of leaders that you would have in the North America business, going from area sales managers to sector leaders at that time. Then you have a guy coming from Brazil and getting one of those spots, reduced amount of spots. And I remember being in that hotel trying to fit in, and people telling me, I believe you're in the wrong country. Like very, and myself with very strong accent. I still have it. And I remember trying to fit in, and Gord, it was like, don't try to fit in, be yourself, be true to yourself, to your beliefs, and don't try to fit in for any role or organization. And you really changed my way of thinking, Rich. And it's amazing the power that comes when you're true to yourself, you're true to your beliefs, and you make the decisions, and you act, and you lead in the way that you believe from your heart. It's liberating, and actually it becomes a strength, because when you do that, people will see it through that you're being true to yourself, you're being true to your beliefs, and it's unique. People feel it. Everybody can tell when it comes from the heart. When we are trying to play, a role, or trying to play a persona that is not really you, people can see it through. And being yourself, it has that strength, that liberation. As an example, I remember for many, many years, I used to be ashamed by my accent, right? And I used to trying to hide my accent. I used to not, speak that much because of my accent. Till the time that, I used to talk to Gordy about it, and he was like, "Your accent means that you can speak two languages. That's what it means." And then I start, realizing that it's like, you know what? He's right. My accent means that I'm smart enough to speak two languages, and then later on I start adding, and then I'm brave enough to perform my job on my second language. Right? I think it's a brave act as well. So I start embracing it and being proud of my accent, and rather than being ashamed, I made it part of my brand, I think. And so, yeah, he really changed the way that Gordy really changed the way that I see things, trying to fit in and be more true to myself and follow my instincts and gut feelings and do the things based on my beliefs. It's liberating and so much power out of that.
It sounds too like he almost brought you back to the lessons that you were just telling us about your father in that moment of staying true to your beliefs and standing up for what it is that you believe in, even when that means the desire to fit in to the people around you, right? Stay true to who you are in those moments.
100%, Rich. No doubt about it. And it helped me. It helped me tremendously in my career, because being that person, being myself is really what made me successful throughout my career. If I was trying to fit in and just be part of an existing organization and an existing ecosystem, I probably would be just another person. I wouldn't ever be able to really succeed and do the things that I have accomplished in my career if I was not really following my heart and following my beliefs. You are 100%.
Yeah. And now you've taken that area leadership type of role that you were talking about, right? And coming over to the US and taking over one of those territories at the level that you were at there. You've now obviously continued to progress in your sales leadership career, now a chief commercial officer, successful exit under your belt at this point. How do you attribute that growth from maybe early sales leadership roles to becoming a CCO, and what were some of the changes, if any, that you needed to make in taking on those larger scopes?
There is a big change, Rich, when you get those roles. That is, you need to really trust your people, right? And inspire them. You're not gonna be able to be in every single meeting or place that you would like to be to influence the decision. So it's a waterfall, right? That you need to make it happen. So thinking about growth to me is when you are able to build an organization, an environment that inspires people to perform at their best and really go the extra mile, not because they feel obligated to, because they want to, because they believe on what we are doing together and what we are building together. It's really how I would describe success and growth. That's from a conceptual perspective. From more a practical way, it's really having that commercial organization being the driving force that is going to lead the entire organization to outpace market growth, and by doing that, create a value to the company in a consistent way.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you joined Shermco in either a VP or an SVP type of role, and then were shortly thereafter promoted to CCO. I know that there are a lot of leaders that maybe will jump from one company to another in search of promotions, right? And they will specifically only go for the CCO or CRO type role, depending on the industry. it rather than trying to take that like intermediary step that you took that then projected you and got you into that CCO type of role. I would love to hear your thoughts as you were looking at that and what that opportunity meant to you and why that was so enticing instead of maybe waiting to find a role that already was that CCO or CRO type of role.
Yes, remember that very well, Rich. I was already a VP of sales, having the entire sales. I was the VP of sales and marketing at Agreco, and then working for Nightside Services after Agreco, I was also a VP of sales. So when I joined Sherman as a VP of national accounts, you could be perceived as going backwards. Honestly, at that point, I felt that I was going, from a title perspective, that I was going backward. So it's like really debating on that move. But I was so inspired by what Sherman was trying to do, mainly the CEO. Spent a lot of time talking to Phil, our CEO, on what he was trying to accomplish as an organization. And I remember him spending like 1.5 hours, even before I was an employee, explaining me the whole plan and what he was trying to achieve. It really inspired me to do. So I made a bet, Rich. I really, I knew I was going backwards on my resume at that time. Because I had sales in all capacity and marketing, and I was going to, be a VP of national accounts. But I was very inspired by the story, and I said, I'm going to give a try, and I think this is a great business. I'm an electrical engineer. Sherman does field electrical services, acceptance test, maintenance. So I was like, it's going to go back to my roots of being an electrical engineer and doing industrial services and technical selling. So I made a bet. So glad I did. It went extremely well. I joined in the end of August, and in November 1st, they invited me to fill in the chief commercial officer role that was open. I remember when I interviewed with him, I asked about the role. I knew the role was open. And I asked him, said, yeah, we're looking, for that role. And I remember Phil telling me, very honest, and I loved the way that he did. He said, I can see in your resume, you probably could do that role, but we're probably going to market next year, and I need someone that, have done that before, right, to be on that position, which I understood. And I appreciate his honesty and his openness, and no problem. I still believe on the project, and I believe on what we're trying to do, and I want to do this. I want to embark on the private equity world, and let's do it. And it paid out extremely well. Took the chief commercial officer in the end of 1st of November, end of last year, and it has been a very rewarding journey.
That's great. So he was honest with you about, okay, you don't have the experience, we'll continue to look. What do you think changed between August and November in his mind as you came in and obviously established yourself in a very good way for them to consider you for that role and almost change their mind from where they had been a few months before?
I would say, Rich, I joined the company and I really went all in, right? I was not playing the role on, okay, let me be, in the sideline, learning the company and taking the time to learn, and still not there. And I went all in. I really embraced, first with the National Account Manager program. I have done that before when I was working for Agreco. So really coming up, I remember second week discussing with the team, changes that, I would like to evaluate. It was still too early to make the change, but I'm already sharing my thoughts. Again, being true to yourself and to your beliefs. I was already sharing with the team. I said, guys, I believe we have too many accounts. We need to go smaller and deeper rather than wider in a true, national account manager program, you really need to own those, accounts that you have, rather than having too many that you just touching and being superficial, and discussing those, changes very early. And I think they saw that I was dedicating myself, the change that we were doing, they were playing well, they were making an impact in the organization. And we had a role, the chief commercial officer was not filled, and some of the discussions with potential investors and bankers, companies, brokers that would do the exit later, they start taking place during that time, just evaluating how the market appetite is for that type of a deal. And the CEO asked me to fill in on some of those meetings. He was like, can you, would you mind, going and fill in and talking about sales? And I said, sure, let's do it. Some of those in a very short notice, they being, communicated on a Thursday that, had to be in one of those meetings on a Monday. So spent my weekends, working on the speech and how I would present the sales organization. And it went well. I think they was very well received, and they trust, and they said, you know what? Why not? Let's make a bet. And very pleased with the opportunity that they gave me. I think it paid out for them as well on the bet that it did.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I'm curious, this was your first transaction that you've been a part of, or at least to this capacity. What was maybe the biggest challenge that you didn't anticipate through that process?
Biggest challenge, I think I knew, Rich, I knew that, you really go through a very detailed due diligence when, for that type of investment, right? $1.6 billion, and Blackstone and other potential buyers that were in the process. You're going to have a very detailed due diligence. I didn't realize how quick those due diligences and how quick you need to turn out information during an exit process like that. It was insane, the pace, right? It was having meetings and during the weekend to get the information that was being requested to the potential buyers, and it was non-stop for, I want to say, probably 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, consistent requests, answers. You get this like 112 questions about your sales process, and you need to turn as quick as you can, because you want to keep the buyers engaged, and you want to keep the process going as fast as you can. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge. Anyone that has done that before probably was aware of. I heard about it, but I probably underestimated the intensity of the process. But it learned a lot, and it was very rewarding, and it went extremely well. So we're all very pleased with the results.
Yeah, there is a lot of hurry up, and sometimes there's a little bit of pause, but then all of a sudden it gets going again, right? And the request, they needed it 5 minutes ago, so you need to get moving every time. It's almost like sprinting a marathon, right? Like it's intense in terms of the speed, but also the duration ends up going a lot longer than it normally would in the normal course of business, right?
It's so funny that you're using a sprint in a marathon, Rich, because that's exactly what I told my team. I said, you're sprinting a marathon, so let's just keep going. That's exactly how it feels, that you're sprinting a marathon.
Well, Thiago, I really appreciate you sharing your stories here today. As we get ready to wrap up, I'd love to find out from you. I know you've got children that are growing in age, and we've talked about our kids and some of our conversations that we've had before. Is there one principle or lesson that you've learned in your journey that you want to make sure your kids really understand and get as they get ready to move on to college and into their working careers?
Yes, Rich. I think that would be that hard work and persistence always pay off, and just trust the process. Keep pushing forward. Don't give up. Right? You're always going to be able to overcome any challenge if you trust the process and you work hard and have persistency. You're always gonna get the results, and it's gonna pay off. I think it bothers me when I see people stopping on the first barrier. It's something that really bothers me when, and the kids too, and the generations, when first challenge, something doesn't go in the way that they expect and they give up. It bothers me. So I try hard with my daughter to, keep pushing. That's okay. What did you learn from that failure? How are we going to apply that, on the next one? What are we going to do about it related to that event? And just work hard, and persistent pays off.
That's great advice. Thiago, thank you so much for joining. If people want to connect with you or get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I have a profile in my LinkedIn, Rich, that I am generally there. So I think that will be probably the best way to reach out to be through the social media.
Perfect. And we'll include the link to that LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well for everybody. Thiago, thank you again for joining. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Rich, thanks for the invite. It was a pleasure. Great sharing this podcast with you.
Thanks for joining us on the Mid-Game Mindset. If today's episode sparked a new idea or helped shift your perspective, share it with someone who's ready to grow. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep playing the game. With the right mindset, the best moves are still ahead. Until next time, keep changing the game.